I was recently approached by Revolut for a job opportunity, and the most interesting thing I found in the job spec was 120 days working from anywhere policy. I think that's the most flexible policy I've ever seen. Similarly, my current employer Deloitte also has a working overseas policy of 4 working weeks. So that made me think, of course, a lot of companies are going back to old school model of full-time in office, as you might have seen in the news. But there are, of course, some companies offering a lot of flexibility. And on top of that, working overseas is definitely a cherry on top. It's really, really great benefit. I have used that with Deloitte for the last 2 years. It's really amazing. As per the Real Economy report of RSM UK, 33% of employers in the UK actually offer working from overseas to some extent to their employees. And out of that, only 31% of them limit the number of days people can work outside. And the report also says that the trend was driven by shortage of labor in UK and not having enough talent. And that's why employers are giving that level of flexibility to the employees so that they can retain the talent. Now, keeping stats aside, which companies actually offer work from overseas? We will be covering 10 large companies or firms in UK who are offering work from overseas to the employees. Number one, Deloitte, where I work. Deloitte UK is a policy of allowing the employees to work 20 working days in any 12-month rolling period, which is basically 4 weeks. And you can take that into 2 parts, like 1 week, 3 weeks, or 2 weeks, 2 weeks. But to Revolut, as I mentioned, it has generous 120 days working overseas policy. It says work from anywhere. Number 3, PwC. PwC is a policy like Deloitte, but it is 3 weeks only. Number 4, Google. Google has a similar policy like Deloitte, 20 working days. Number 5, Meta, formerly known as Facebook. It also has a 20 days working policy. Before taking the remaining 5 companies, remember it's very, very complicated area, and there are always some terms and conditions attached to these sort of working overseas policies, because this is really complex area from taxation perspective, from legal perspective, data security, privacy, and confidentiality angles. This is really, really important. So any such policy at any company will be dependent on a few conditions, and I'll be briefly touching upon them. Number 1, all countries may not be covered by a work from overseas policy of your company. You need to ask a question to your recruiter if you're joining in, or your team leader, your manager, that is your country allowed to work from overseas, because there are legal complications to it. Maybe your company doesn't have an office in that country, or maybe they see the risk is high in that country because of confidentiality, because of data security, or because of taxation, or because of any other thing. Number 2, you have to always ask for the approval from the company, especially the immigration department, because you need to make sure you're compliant with the immigration requirements. Eventually, you'll have to apply for ILR, and it's really, really important. 3 companies give the disclaimer that you have to bear the tax consequences, if there are any, of working overseas. The company will not be paying them additionally. So the key is definitely ask your recruiter, your prospective employer, that is working from overseas allowed in your company, and if it is, then is your country from you're coming from is allowed to work in overseas. Back to listing. Number 6, EY. EY also has a similar policy like Deloitte and PwC. Number 7, KPMG. Again, all these big 4 firms have some sort of policy. I think Deloitte is most flexible. Number 8, Thomson Reuters, which also have a policy of 20 days working abroad. Similarly, MasterCard also has a 20 days working policy. HubSpot has a 90 days working policy. Finally, Google also has a 20 days working policy. The names I mentioned in this video are quite big and employ a lot of people from overseas, so it's definitely great places to work it. Of course, the flexible working policy overseas is definitely a cherry on top if you're working there. This is definitely not exhaustive list. There are a lot more companies. As I said, 33% of employers actually allowed their employees to work overseas, as per the report from RSM. So there are a lot more companies, especially in the tech space like IT. There are a lot of companies offering that sort of flexibility. The point of this video is these are some big names that actually allow that sort of policy, and that's really, really wonderful to avail that. Hopefully this helps. Thanks so much for watching.